right. Welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris. It is Monday, June 14th, 2:03. All right. Good news, bad news. All right. Good news is I'm going to do it. The bad news is Robert had a last minute thing. So he's in transit. He will be with us next week, but it's looking a little hairy for him to get to a cam right now. All right. So I really was hoping he could join us, though, so we could go over Biden's approval rating, at least superficially. Maybe we can even sneak something else in. But we missed a Zoom call with our locals community on Friday. It didn't work out. There were some people who couldn't make it, some people who wanted to do Saturday. I wasn't going to miss this as well. For the locals community, Zoom call is probably going to be tomorrow. Everyone seems to be okay with that, and I don't want to wait until Friday. All right? So if a load of people miss it, maybe we'll do a quick one again on Friday. All right? But we'll see. It looks like everybody's pretty much good on Tuesday. There's always somebody who's left out.
Of course.
All right. So what are the odds that Joe Biden has a 60% approval rating? Not good. All right. The odds of that are nil. Okay. The odds of that were always nil. Even when he was at his highest, and we're going to look at the trend in a second, which is what I really want to focus on today. All right, because if we didn't add a question, I'd have been a little bit befuddled about why this approval rating is down. All right, but the bottom line is, even when he was at his highest with us, you will see why it is so hard for anybody, whether you're Joe Biden, you're Donald Trump, you're George W. Bush outside of 9/11, even Barack Obama, outside of him being just inaugurated in his honeymoon period. It is so hard to hit 60%. Partisans are partisans, folks. You don't see these huge 20-plus crossovers nationally like we saw on the day of Ronald Reagan. We don't see these huge independent swings the way we saw even in 2008. That's just not how it works anymore. When you do see swings with independents, it's typically because one party is cannibalizing their independent-leaning vote. As I've said before, when Donald Trump was president, he didn't lose the independent vote. It didn't swing against him. He cannibalized the independents who voted for him in 2016. And instead of the people he brought to the game calling themselves independents and voting for the first time, they simply called themselves Republican. Sometimes the answer is not that easy. Let's bring up the trend. All right. This goes back. Some of this is it's all the public polling project. But I'm saying some of this is stuff that we did with you guys. Some of it is stuff we did with one, I believe, that we did, or two, that we did elsewhere. All right. But either way, you probably have seen it. With us, when Joe Biden was inaugurated, Joe Biden started off with a 48% approval rating. After his inauguration, it went up to 52. By mid-February, he had started to climb to 52. But you do notice something happening right there with his climb. The partisan bumped too. Mm-hmm. Disapproval bumped. Because we were talking about election integrity, whether or not the media or social media wants to admit it, there are a lot of people who question the legitimacy of Joe Biden's win. That's a reality, whether you want to agree with it or not. It's irrelevant. It's what the country thinks. Anyway, the vaccine rolls out. Fair point for Trump supporters to say, yeah, thanks to Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Fair point. Joe Biden did nothing. He was handed the vaccine distribution program. That's not the point, is it, though? The point is, his approval rating goes up almost exclusively, and it is exclusive by mid-March to April. It is exclusively because of coronavirus and the vaccine. How do we know? Because we asked about all the other issues, and you saw it. He was underwater on immigration, badly. He was underwater on the economy, a couple of points. He's underwater on U.S.-China relations. He's underwater on foreign policy. Immigration being his worst. With the exception of foreign policy, he actually did a little bit better in this last poll in some of these other subcategories, even though his overall approval rating fell pretty significantly. And that we'll talk about in a second, but that is due to the cyber attacks And the general feeling with the Middle East and everything else going on, gas prices going up, gas shortages, cyber attacks, Middle East crisis, is the general feeling of, wait a minute, what the hell is going on? None of this was happening under Donald Trump. Why is the world falling apart now? And the media wants to hide that, that's fine, but it's happening. The blue checks on Twitter want to ignore it, that's fine, but it's happening. The fake poll readers who think they're gauges of pollsters and their ratings and accuracy and trustworthiness, fine, but it's happening. So we see him before April, he's at 54, and his disapproval actually ticks down, so he's plus 12. We head into April, and he hits his 56 approval high. That is the highest we've seen for Joe Biden. That, again, is because of coronavirus and the vaccination rollout. And we're going to talk about it. As we talk about the vaccination levels, I want you to remember these dates and the trend from these, with these dates. Because you're going to see, as more people got vaccinated, they're like, okay, he's doing all right. The vaccine is readily available. He's doing all right. Maybe we'll get back to normal. He's doing all right. But then May hits. And then June, the beginning, we're in mid-June now. By the time we started to get into the field, there were real problems, folks. Hamas was lobbing rockets into Israel. Israel's whatever order you want to call it. Israel's, attacking Gaza. I mean, there's images of dead people on television again. There's no gas from Texas to the Atlantic seaboard. North Carolina, I don't care what the polling would show. Donald Trump, if there was a redo right now, would probably carry the state of North Carolina by four times the margin he carried it by in November. People were pissed. We know. We talked to them. Biden voters. The decent voters. The voters who would have voted other ways if not for decency. And coronavirus.
A lot of buyer's remorse.
That was a great way to put it. Laura said, for you didn't hear her, there was a lot of buyer's remorse. People are like, oh my God, maybe he is senile. Maybe he is incompetent. This is what we heard. All right. Anyway, now we have it here. His disapproval goes to the roof. The percentage who said they disapprove of his cyber attacks is the same, almost, we're rounding, but it's the same as the percentage who disapprove of him overall. Here's why this matters. For months and months and months, people would tell us, I somewhat approve of Joe Biden. Okay, what about immigration? I disapprove. Strongly. What about U.S.-China relations? Somewhat disapprove. What about the economy? Somewhat disapprove. What about coronavirus? Strongly approve. So overall, it would keep that disapproval rating down. That didn't happen this time. This time, his disapproval rating shot up with his approval rating going down. 51% approve, 46% disapprove. This is the weakest margin since he put his hand on the Bible and took the oath of office. So it's safe to say the honeymoon period is now over. And honestly,
for a divorce.
And Laura's being more definitive because Kamala Harris's numbers were in the 50s, and because she's his president, not because anybody ever really liked her, because she didn't. We've been polling her forever. I mean, since she jumped into the Democratic nomination, it's because she was his vice president, period. But now she's falling along with him. She's about 3 points less than he is. And falling. So why? What is this? Look, we did ask about foreign policy, and he's -4 there. All right, so almost the same margin. We didn't ask specifically about the Middle East, but we did ask about cyber attacks, okay? And here's cyber attack by region. You will notice, and I think if you were listening to any of the episodes last week, you heard me say this. If not for the Northeast, Biden would be in deep, deep, deep trouble with his approval rating. It is no joke. The Northeast, almost 6 in 10 roughly, that pulls roughly 6 in 10 approve, that pulls his entire approval rating up. In the South, he's underwater. In the Midwest, he's slightly underwater. In the West, he's about even. In the Northeast, he's way above water. He's still way above water. So it's helping his overall approval rating. But look at his approval rating here with the cyber attacks. 41%. Disapprove, 46. Actually, 46.9, 47. 47 disapprove. Look familiar? It should. Here, let's go back to this one. So, 1 point less this time. The cyber attack disapproval rating, which is -6, all of those people who said they disapproved were 1 point different between the overall disapproval. It's big for us. It tells us something pretty significant. Coronavirus is not strong enough anymore in the minds of voters to keep them from taking out their frustrations on the president.
Yep.
For months, he had been benefiting from being handed this situation, but he had been benefiting from a very strong approval rating on coronavirus. It's still very strong. That's the only issue where he's really solid. But it just doesn't matter as much anymore. In California, just separately, we're polling the recall election. The number one issue on the minds of voters in California is homelessness. Actually, let me pull this up real quick and let me read this exactly. Sorry if you hear my scrolling, which I'm sure you do. Okay. I'm sorry. Cost of living. Almost a third said, about a third said cost of living. Another 1 in 4 said homelessness. 18, economy and jobs. You know where coronavirus is now? 9%. That's it. That's all. We're not asking about most important voting issue nationwide because the midterms are still a ways off. But if California is telling you that coronavirus is not my top issue anymore, believe me when I tell you, folks, it is not front and center in the minds of Floridians. No. It is not front and center in the minds of Pennsylvanians, which is why the governor was stripped of his emergency powers. That's why he lost those 2 amendment votes.
Karma's the SOB.
He got stripped of those Laura's like, you guys like Laura's little side commentary.
They love me.
All right. Yeah. He lost those 2 votes because it's not that important to them anymore. Is it important? Are there some people who are going to be in the COVID panic forever? Yeah. The psyche of the nation has been damaged by this.
Some people are.
There is a fear that is not American. I got to be honest. It's not. It's very different than reacting. It's a very big difference than when we saw, for instance, 9/11. After 9/11, everybody said, don't be afraid. If we give up our way of life, then they have won. That's not what it's like to live in a state of liberty. We are free here. It comes with danger, but we are free. There are some people who don't get that anymore. They will live in a perpetual state of fear forever if you keep lobbing things at them. Okay? I mean, that's just a reality. All right, so again, I can't stress this enough, and without Robert, I'm not going to do this huge show. All right, we'll get more into the details when I have him with him, and then on Inside the Numbers on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And actually, I was thinking I wanted to do a quick Inside the Numbers tomorrow because I want to go over some cross stuff with you. I don't know, though. We'll see. I'm trying to make this happen. But definitely Wednesday at 11, we're going to go into this much, much, much more detail. We're going to look at the social desirability indicators, too, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable talking about their political beliefs and being honest. Funny thing happened. We started doing this research months and months ago, before the election. Over the weekend, I discovered something. I discovered that the lying, or not even the lying, the omission because of fear, there are 2 places it really happens. One is vote preference. And then I would say 3, but the main one is vote preference. The second main one is presidential approval. And it seems to impact both Trump and Biden. It doesn't matter I don't know why that is yet, but it's interesting. And then the third place, I would say, I mean, really, those are the two biggies. But the third place is when you have a serious controversial issue. Or one where the respondent knows what their answer is supposed to be, but they generally oppose it. They just don't want to tell you. Transgender sports, great example. It is a 2-to-1 oppose in almost all of those categories. 20-plus point margins. But huge numbers of undecided who really are not undecided. All right? Anyway, this is big for us. This is a moment. And why I knew, it was really kind of last minute with Robert. So we were gearing up to do this, and then something happened. But it was last minute. But I wanted to come on anyway because this is that important. This is the moment where coronavirus stopped helping Joe Biden. Or at least stopped artificially propping him up. Which is the term I used during our first public polling project. In the Biden presidency. It was artificially propping him up. Nowhere else do people widely approve of his job performance. Not on any issue. They only approved of his job handling coronavirus. And, more specifically, the vaccination rollout. And it matters. Because now, it's not that prescient to them anymore. It's not that important. It's not vital. Oops. It's not vital. That's an email. I don't think it's not going to come on last minute email, so. But yeah, it's not vital to them anymore. There are other things more important. Rising gas prices. The economy not recovering. Inflation, by the way. Wednesday, we're going to go over the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. Oh my God. Income. People just don't think their income is going to keep pace with these rises. Which is funny because we had 2 months of back-to-back really bad inflation numbers. One wiped away all the wage gains in April. This last one just decimated the wages in the spring. 4-decade-long record. The largest gains in 1 month for 4 decades. And then this last one was 3 decades. Maybe next one will be 2 decades. I don't know, but it's still not, it's not good.
I guess we all have goals in life. And
some of them are just a little odd, right? But let me bring up, speaking of vaccine, let me show you why that may be. And some of you watched a show maybe earlier this week, then, you saw it, but maybe some didn't. And I think that it's worth going over again anyway because, there you are. Because this is why. So people are saying, why is that? Why is that? Well, this is probably why, folks. When a problem is fixed, voters don't think about it anymore.
That's the problem, though.
Not for nothing, but in 2016, trade was a huge issue. People hated NAFTA in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Ohio, Wisconsin, all across the Midwest. People hated NAFTA. They were looking at TPP like that's the death knell for us. That is the death knell for us. One more bad trade deal and this region is gone. The hollowing out process will be complete. Immigration, same thing, because they looked at it as an economic issue. Well, once you come in and start building a wall, once you come in and wipe away NAFTA and renegotiate it unilaterally, you replace it with unilateral trade deals. Once you wipe away all of the negotiations of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, once the economy is roaring again at 3% GDP, once wages are growing again at 3% or greater since before, consecutively, month to month to month to month, over 2 years almost, the most since before the Great Recession, those people have a bad tendency to think that stuff's gonna stay like that then. It'll stay like that forever, or it's going to stay like that for a while. Healthcare is an issue. Well, they fix some things with healthcare. You protect pre-existing conditions, and then we're never going to have a problem with healthcare again, or something. Like, this is the way people think. It's just true. This is not a criticism. It's a reality. So once you fix a problem, it goes away. Democrats are incredible at noticing those opportunities and then finding other issues, wedge issues, that drive wedges between people that get them not thinking about the big stuff anymore. Once you annihilate the Islamic army, nobody cares about ISIS anymore.
That's why I call them the ultimate magician. Look at this hand.
Yeah, that's
the other hand.
Yeah, because it's easy. It's easy because people, I'm doing pretty good at my job. My check looks pretty good this week. I'm not worried about it. My job's stable.
And then
there's not going to be an economic crisis. The economy would probably grow the same rate under Joe Biden that Donald Trump had it go. Now that we got it going again, that is not the case. But that is how people think. They do. They underestimate the impact of policy. They underestimate the impact of public policy has on their immediate situation. It used to be, dating myself, go to economics. It would largely be taught, if you were studying economics, for instance, it would largely be taught that it would take, fiscal policy 2 years to have an impact. It would take monetary policy a less time frame because, it's quicker. It's a quicker injection. Now, first of all, I never thought it was right. Businesses make decisions based on what's coming, but now the exchange of information is so fast that people react much quicker than they used to. Behavior changes much faster than it used to. And the same is true with economic behavior. Anyway, moving on. Here is why COVID may only be that important to 9% of the voting population in a liberal state like California. 3 months ago, 4 in 10 had been vaccinated. Now we're approaching more than 6 in 10, almost 2/3. So how much of the 33% remaining, out of that 25 are no's? They're hard no's anyway. So they're not going to care that much about coronavirus. Their number, believe me, for that 25% who are no, I do not intend to get vaccinated. Regardless of whether there's a lottery now and you can win $1 million to stick a needle in your arm. This is like really, this is a movie. Like, this is a movie about, what's that movie with Christian Bale? Or where they got to take that stuff all the time. They don't take,
it's almost like a Fahrenheit.
Yeah, kind of, very much similar to it. It is like a Fahrenheit. Oh, but it's all right. But they get the point. It's just like, throw your name in a hat to win $1 million. If you're one of the 25% who refuse to take it, now's your chance. It's crazy. Equilibrium. Yeah, that is it. Thank you. Never before have we ever stooped to these things. Free donuts, free burgers, free this. Now free lottery. Now a lottery. It could be $1 million. It's like publishers. What was the name of that? Where you could, like, if you sent back in the thing, you could win. They had subscriptions.
Yeah. You're right.
Publishers.
Publisher Clearinghouse.
Yeah, that's it. PCH. Publisher Clearinghouse. And nobody ever wins it. Nobody ever wins it, but you still keep taking those shots in the hope you will win it.
Meanwhile, you're selling your
keep sending it back in, keep buying the magazines, keep doing all you're supposed to do, but nobody's ever going to win. They just keep making up like videos of people and they're knocking on their doors. Anyway, I digress. Out of the third that didn't get vaccinated already a quarter of them are no's, and only 14% still say they intend to get vaccinated, but they haven't yet. This is the trend, like I showed you with Biden's approval rating, dating back. We didn't start asking this until the end of March. All right, so you can clearly see there's just not a lot of room for people who still care that much about coronavirus. Look, are there always going to be these people who still, even though they've been vaccinated, will hide in their house because they're afraid they're going to get it? Of course. But the majority of people, folks, who got the vaccine want to get on with their lives now. Okay, we wore the mask until the vaccine came out. Okay, we got the vaccine now that it's out. It's time to get back to normal. They're not going to cite coronavirus as their number one issue.
Not only that, but the people are scared to take this vaccine, and they're
Oh, come on! Don't even go there.
No,
at this.
Right,
okay. That's true. I thought we were going back, returning to the Wednesday broadcast.
About the data, baby.
Yeah, there are people who told us that, and you know what? We can show them that right now. Actually, 25% are not taking it yet. Almost 30 don't trust it. Mm-hmm. The efficacy, the safety of it. I mean. So there are people who are taking it even though they don't believe it's safe. You understand what I'm saying? We're running out of places here, folks. We're running out of percentages. We're running out of percentages to continue to do this too. As time goes on, and as some people say, okay, I'll just put on the damn mask. Okay, I'll just take the vaccine. The percentage of people who are going to continue in the COVID mania is obviously going to shrink. And it has now. So mark it down on your calendars right here, right now. June 14th, Monday, 2:29 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the point where Biden's approval on coronavirus is no longer enough to outweigh some of the other things that are going on in the country. This is the moment. And maybe it wasn't June 14th, but it was this time period. Beginning of June, first week in June, whatever. It may have been a little bit before. It may have been the end of May, second half of May. We don't know. We weren't right in the field at that time, asking that question. But this is it. And if we didn't ask that question, we wouldn't know. I wouldn't understand. I might even attribute it to statistical noise. Mm-hmm. Well, how could it be he's doing a little bit better on the economy, for instance? How is his approval a little bit better on the economy, but his approval rating fell 4.5 points? And yeah, it says 5, but really because it wasn't ever 56. It was like 55.6, which we round up, And then this time, it was 51, but it was really like 51.4. So whatever. He fell like rounding up or down. He fell 5 points, but it really is rough. It's in my head, it's 4.5 points. I get you exact decimals when we put up the crosstabs, but it is 4.5. That's like numbers burned into my brain, and that's it. His little overperformance among Republicans, that shrunk quite a bit. He didn't really hurt that much more among Democrats, but with independents, he slid considerably. And then you know what happened? Some of the more moderate national security Republicans were like, no, he did pretty good on the rollout. But, we support Israel. They generally do, too. We can show that. These are people who generally support Israel. Yeah, I'll put up the Israel thing. Where are you? Israel versus Palestine by party. There it is. I mean, you can see the overwhelming, lopsided break towards Israelis among Republicans. Obviously, there are some of those national security Republican moderates who are all right with Joe Biden's rollout and might have told us last month, I somewhat approve, or 2 months ago, I somewhat approve. But now they're watching the problems in the Middle East. They viewed it as his response to the cyber attack was largely viewed as weak. Mm-hmm. It was viewed as weak.
Sorry.
It's a private problem, is not exactly the buck stops here. Mm-hmm. All right. And with that, too, there are going to be some people who, I don't know, because I don't even call them national security Republicans. Neocons are not Republicans. They're not. They never really were. Like the Bill Kristols and the Jonah Goldbergs. And you're not a Republican if you believe in nation building on the other side of the planet. And Rand Paul, I think, put it the best. He really did. Mm-hmm. There's no arguing with his logic or reasoning. If you are a Republican, then you largely think you could be, you're conservative. And conservatives and Republicans generally do not believe in the efficiency or the motives being in good faith of government. They don't believe in government-centered solutions. They don't believe government can provide the best answer. Only free people and private sector competition, individualism can unleash the human spirit. So if you don't believe in the effectiveness or the morality of government, big government, at home, domestically, then how on earth can you believe that government can be built and created and force others in other countries to live a different way and have different culture? And if you can't nation build at home, you can't nation build abroad. If communities, families, and autonomous municipalities and townships and cities are the key to good Republican government, small r, Republican government, then you cannot expect the federal government to do something as complex, as difficult, and as unrealistic as building governments for somebody else who does not share your values in another country. You just simply can't believe it. Doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't call these national security Republicans. I would not call them. I don't want you to think of like Bill Kristol or Max Booth. Mm-hmm. They're not Republicans. They're neocons, and neocons have always been commies, left-wing statists, whatever you want to call them, domestic policy statists. That's what they believe. Big government. And foreign policy warmongers. They believe in the primacy of U.S. power and to project that power onto others to shape the world in our image. Like it's sounds kind of godlike syndrome, right? It's like a God syndrome.
Promised land.
It's a God syndrome.
Isn't this where enlightenment came?
Yeah. Jack Snyder, Miss of Empire, book tip for the week. He crushes those guys. I mean, it's elegant. It's beautiful. The domino effect during communism, the scare of communism, he destroys that. The mythical city of El Dorado. That's what those guys are chasing. They're looking for the city of gold. One more war will get us that wealth and resources. One more war will give us the control over this hemisphere. One more war will be the result of human peace. And it just is, it's a myth. You'll end up like the Spaniards, chasing down the mythical city of El Dorado. You'll spend every penny you have in the treasury, and you'll end up just another broke-ass monarch with nothing to your name.
You so went there.
Broke joke. A once admirable and powerful and proud superpower.
Singing Nobody Knows But Jesus.
Begging to other kings for a loan. Begging. Sound familiar to you? Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire. Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire. All right. It's 2:36. I did just want to jump on here real quick and do this. This will be the shortest episode of What Are the Odds we have ever done. But I did want to tell you this because it is that important. You know what, though? For people, because they're always... What Are the Odds has a different audience than Inside the Numbers. So if you want, we can run through... We could do like a... We were going to talk about social media bias today with Robert. We could do a slew of... Real quick, we'll do a lightning round of results. Lightning round of polling results, all right?
So Rich says he's going to do something quick.
You watch me. You ready?
I'll watch.
Boom!
You.
Social media bans. Our video was removed from YouTube last Wednesday. A lot of people were pissed off about it. And you know what? That's to be expected. Here we go. They are too often used to crush dissenting views and represent a grave threat to free speech rights. 56% of American voters agreed with that and do not agree with the Jack Dorseys of the world and the other blue check marks who are trying to get everybody removed from platforms for saying things they don't like. It is not used to ensure a civil society and free speech should be limited based on somebody else's feelings. By the way, YouTube pushing hat tip Brett Weinstein. He's a lefty, and he is coming around to how he has been lied to. And he just went after, YouTube. Is YouTube spreading misinformation? Brett, welcome. Welcome, Brett. Anyway, moving on. It's not close. Get it? That's the bottom line. Critical race theory. We did it by race. If you missed it from last week, people did not choose the critical race theory worldview. In fact, if critical race theory was on a ballot and only black people could vote, it would still go down in a blaze of glory. 14-point margin, 14.5-point margin. Moving on. Second Amendment bi-party. This is the actual question here. The rest of it does not matter. After a mass shooting happens, of course, people are going to tell you they should have laws that prevent crazy people from getting guns. That's not the question at hand. The question is, do you support or oppose the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which states the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed? 63.1% support it. Less than 20% oppose it, but you can round up if it makes you feel better. I would only note, since it is bi-party, look at how Democrats, what they told us. A majority of Democrats do not support the Second Amendment. So that's the end of that charade. Mm-hmm. A majority of Democrats do not support the Second Amendment. And at least a third of Democratic voters would love to see the Second Amendment repealed. Moving on. So when the media lies to you next time about how this isn't some attack on your Second Amendment rights, they're full of crap, because they are without a doubt in that 1/3. China is viewed to be the greatest threat to the United States, the biggest enemy, by a 20-point margin, although partisanship does impact how likely you are to tell us whether China or Russia or others are the top enemy of the United States. Democrats, they cited Russia more than any other group, cited Russia as the number one threat to the U.S., while independents and Republicans see China, and Democrats are left out in left field on this one. We went over this one before, Israel versus Palestine by party. Obviously, there is a religious, Robert and I have talked about this before, there is absolutely a religious component to this. Evangelicals share certain views and values. The bottom line for them is that who protects the homeland, who protects the religious, the Holy Land, who protects the Holy Land better than anybody else? Who protects it for all groups, not just Muslims, not just Christians? That's what is driving that. And obviously, evangelicals are disproportionately likely to identify as Republican. COVID-19 vaccinations, we went over. Yes, we did. Here's Palestinian statehood, which actually stunned the hell out of me. This is not very widely supported. It is, there is no statistical difference here. 26 versus 24. Independent statehood is +2 in this country. Stunning to me. I actually was very, very shocked by the results of this. A whole lot of people told us they really don't give a damn. They don't care about Palestine. They don't even care about the Middle East. All right, moving on. America first by region. Of course, we would never say America first, because if we did, then they would associate it with Trump and they would lie. Economic, immigration, and foreign policy should be put the needs of U.S. citizens ahead of of U.S. allies and the global community. Overwhelmingly wins over the globalist worldview, which is the worldview that President Joseph R. Biden just espoused when he went overseas on this trip. When he held this, summit thing. He just told the world that foreign policy under a Biden administration will be the complete opposite of Donald Trump's, what he called, isolationism. Moving on. Speaking of decency, Americans would much rather have a leader who has perceived moral problems than a leader who does not, appears to be on the up and up, but is a typical politician who just rarely keeps their promises.
Yeah. The spineless.
They would rather a leader who has issues, has baggage, as long as they keep their promise to them.
Because you know what? People could relate with people who have baggage because they themselves have baggage.
And that is why when Donald Trump reacted to the Billy Bush tape in 2016, he could have honestly learned a lot from his own campaign 4 years prior. That was what was so magical and ingenious about that campaign. Anybody else would have called it quits. Reince Priebus was telling Steve Bannon, what are you talking about? We have got to pass this off to Mike Pence. This campaign is over. We're going to get killed. And he just went to Bannon told him that nobody will care.
No.
Nobody will care.
Just tell
Nobody's
going to
vote for you because you don't like pretty women. You're a rich guy who talks dirty about pretty women. Oh my God.
Goodness.
What a shocker.
Stop
Guess
the
what?
presses.
There are poor guys who talk dirty about pretty women. There are middle-income guys who talk dirty about pretty women. And guess what,
There are
Laura?
women who talk worse than men
About
men.
handsome men. That's right. So nobody really gave a damn. All they cared about was whether or not trade was going to still hollow out their communities, or whether or not immigration was still going to replace them.
As long as you admit it, though.
Yes.
And say, hey, I didn't say I was going to be a saint.
And that's what he did. Which is what was so genius about it. Because he knew those people only cared about the impact of their community from illegal immigration. Only cared about the impact of their community from hollowing out in globalism. Only cared about the impact of their community from all of the other social issues. If you remember, the vote on the Supreme Court had a very big impact for Donald Trump. So he won a lot of evangelical votes that otherwise probably did not like him, his moral character, perceived moral flaws, but did anyway because the Supreme Court and their right to, practice their faith without repercussions was more important. All right, so with that was a lightning round. I did it. Laura said I could not do it, but I did just want to blast it out. 45 minutes, the shortest What Are the Odds ever. Again, we'll be back for the full episode. Sometimes you just can't avoid things. And when you're in transit, when you're like, I gotta go, it's like there is no way to make it. So, no harm, no foul. We'll be back. Barnes will be back with me next Monday, and we'll hit this and a slew of other things. There is almost no stopping the polling operation over here.
No.
We are constantly grinding out. I even have permission to share results. When they're done, they will be done from other things, states, districts, counties, all over. And it will be great in the context of what we did with the Public Polling Project, which is national. And you'll see, what does that look like in certain districts? What does that mean in certain swing districts or even leaning districts? What does it mean for those states? Important, pivot counties. We have so much to go over. All right? And with that, we'll see you at 11. Yeah. And, again, we actually, we're sorry for the shortness of this.
Yes.
But
life happens.
Life happens.
And
That's right.
We completely understand.
Totally. Life happens. And we will be shooting for that Zoom call tomorrow.
Yes.
We were thinking a little bit later, 7.
Yeah, I think 7 because everybody could do life and have dinner early. And,
yeah, we ran up on a lot of people's dinners last time.
And not only that, but it kind of conflicted with me making dinner.
And we could, look, I'm not saying it's in stone for 7, but that's what we're shooting for right now. And we always give you guys time to give us feedback, so do that. peoplespundit.locals.com, it's posted there.
And
give
if
us
you
feedback.
sign up for People's Pundit,
yeah, you can join the Zoom calls.
You could join the Zoom calls and hang out with us. It's cool.
I was thinking we could get through some, obviously there's a lot in the survey that people are going to have questions with. They're going to want to see. I can share my screen with them in a way I can't do here, which they can see some of the tools that we use, which are really cool. That's always a lot of fun. But then soon we're going to transition, when there's less survey stuff going on, transitioning into book club. That'll be fun. All right, so again, if you like the video, or generally the videos, What Are the Odds, Inside the Numbers, subscribe to the page on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we're going to go live so you don't miss my cold open. And then, as always, you could still follow me on Twitter, or not as always for now, at peoples_pundit. We do have, we do put out some of the stuff on locals there. Some of the stuff that was only for locals. So if you get aggravated, like some people I read the other day, if you get aggravated for clicking on them, I still put it on locals. Why? This thing should be over. I'm sorry. I still put it on locals. I still put it on Twitter for people who may miss it on locals. All right. So my bad. All right. With that in mind, I'm going to take us out of here.
Have a fantastic day.
Yep.
Sorry it was
We'll
a
see you
short
tomorrow.
Monday, but we'll see you on the flip side.
All the best, folks.
Not wasting any time.
I did that.
Highway 95, engines on the overdrive. From town to town and in between, I see you in the morning light. Take me home tonight, not wasting any time. Highway 95, engines
So you're
on
saying because of this
overdrive.
case, I can be like, now from now on, I have no excuse as to why I'm not doing the questions doing Q&A fast.
Yes, because
That's what you're telling me.
It should be a 2-minute answer, not a history lesson per question.
Okay. All right.
right,
That makes
let's
sense.
see if we can-
That makes sense.
let's
You know
see if
what?
we can do this.
I shall strive and endeavor
I
to
will
do better.
bet you $5 this is impossible.
All the best.